Welcome back to Horrifically Well Read, Bled, and Said. Today, our guest is coming on and celebrating the 1 year anniversary of her fantastic novel, I'm Sorry If I Scared You. Welcome, Mae Murray.
Hello.
She's so demure. No. Mae is one of the coolest authors you're ever going to meet.
Damn.
Yeah. I mean, really, really exceptionally talented. So we have author, but jewelry maker, pins, all kinds of and always styling, like at every event, like all your pictures that I see you and I'm like, okay. And how like all the women in the horror community are like, girl, you killed this look. And you do. You really do. From like seeing you at Stoker to like watching you like through your trip throughout like we saw you at Spectastic and then after that you were just killing it. So I also specifically put on the most comfortable necklace I own, which you made just for the recording today. And it never stops being my favorite.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I get asked often, like my mother was like, is that witchcraft? And I was like, dude.
Fuck yeah, it is.
Yes, it is.
I was like, dude, it's like a star and a moon. And she was like, oh, okay. Or no, it was like a sun and a moon. And she was like, oh, I thought you had a star within a circle. And I was like, no. So
Made
need to add a charm.
made by a witch
No,
for
it's
a
a
witch.
sun.
The sun's in a moon.
Anyway, your book's fantastic. You're just a very overall talented person. And
Icon thrice over.
there you
What
go.
you're saying.
This is
Yes.
what we're saying. Yes.
Yeah.
Beauty and lovely and all those things. So yes, I'm really glad you're on here celebrating because we're talking a lot about female authors and I just got done. So your 1 year anniversary is the 19th, but we just got done like going through the month of October. And I personally focused a shit ton on women, female driven main center, like character books. Even, I just got done this whole month of just reading like every book. Like I took Mother Hard's advice and she was like, when you find basically a vibe that you like, stay in the vibe. Like don't shop the genre or whatever. And I was like, I've had other really good reading months where I've explored books and enjoyed them, but never to the level of like, I just stayed in this female main character energy. And had I not read your book before that, it would have fit in so perfectly with women that are like, fuck the patriarchy, fuck the bullshit that I have to deal with. Like, these are the things that are happening to me in my life and just how you dealt with it. And so you're sitting among Olivia Blake Girl Dinner and Vanessa Maltabon's These Vengeful
Wishes.
And I mean, there was just so like the Tradwife book and like so many other Kristen Miller's, the women of what, like they're just like, and we're just not putting up with it. We're just going to fucking handle it ourselves. And like, that's what your book does. I'm sorry if I scared you. So I just really want to position this. Like I get a lot of people that are like, can you recommend a book for me? Which is high praise that someone's like, you read a lot. I know you like good things. But I would recommend your book very much. And now that we're having this anniversary edition, I think it's really important for women to read it because you're telling not just a story, but your story very personally. And I want to make sure we get into that and highlight how critical this is to women, especially in this, not economy, but I mean, kind of, but in this,
Political landscape.
there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
We want to be especially aware.
Well, I think a year ago we were scared, and now a year later we know why we're scared.
We know why. We all woke up at 3 or 4 in the morning and we're like, couldn't sleep. I'm sorry. And because we had a right to be. And, so I really want to talk about your book some. And why don't you tee it up for how you would describe it?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for all of that high praise and the comparisons to these other great authors. I think that the maybe fortunate or unfortunate thing that sets me apart from those authors is that this was more of it was a self-published book. And so it is not as widely read. So when people make comparisons to these traditionally published books, it's, I think, very helpful to have people find it.
It is because it's like, if you liked this, then read this because it's not that any book that is self-published isn't as quality. It could be even better. It's just that it's not as discoverable. And that's the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, it
You
doesn't.
have to have someone recommend it or seek it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it has basically a one-woman marketing team behind it, and, it's me and the readers, so I love when people post about it, I love when people share their reactions to it, even if it's not a good reaction, which I haven't really had many of those. Even then, I'm like, I'm so grateful that folks have read it. If I were gonna describe the book, it's I get told this a lot by readers, that it's a lot of different elements that, it doesn't seem like they should work, but it all comes together and it works, and I'm like, "Thank you, thank you." Because as I was writing it, I was like, "Okay, we've got possession, we've got aliens, we've got a little bit of found footage, we have a rape revenge story, we have a lot of different elements that are a lot of my favorite elements from horror films and books that, come together to tell what is essentially a really, in my opinion, profound story about autonomy.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when I
And not just autonomy, but like, well, it is autonomy, but I just want to like underscore where it's like the taking back of autonomy,
yeah,
like taking back what you gave away as yours and unabashedly doing so. Like all
yeah.
fucks out the window. I'm going to take back my life and my autonomy.
And also kind of like how the people around you in the most unlikeliest of places kind of support that mission, and can help drive you toward that mission. Because I think the main character, Odie, I think of her kind of as someone who was born into an environment where she didn't have autonomy from the get-go and had this kind of sense of learned helplessness, which is something that I find to be pretty common in very impoverished communities, rural communities like I grew up in. There is this sense of learned helplessness. There is a sense of kind of reliance on religion to maybe serve, I'll give you what you want just by praying. And I think that support and love of her friends, her determination, the fact that she does hit a breaking point where she just can't take it anymore and she kind of loses her shit for a little bit. There is power in the anger, and there's power uh in the loss of control.
So the kids these days are calling it a crash out.
Yeah,
And
she
then there's the
totally
word,
crashes out.
yeah. And the most operative word that needs to go before that is valid.
Yeah.
It's like a valid crash out is what they say, and it's like and it really is a valid crash out.
Yeah. 100% I agree. I think that anybody who reads the book, you are going to understand why she's crashing out so hard because the entire world is stacked against her and in a very real way. Like even without the supernatural
Mhm.
elements, she's an underdog.
I think to me is like a badass that took something that all too often happens when you go to college. I mean, I feel like we can say like she's raped. I mean, I think like it happens at the very beginning of the book. I think it's a huge part of the premise. And, you know, if that's a trigger for some people, they need to know that. But what I think you do so well is you don't just, I mean, you're not glorifying it. You don't listen to a rape scene or anything like that. We catch up with Odie or Odette right after she's been, she's pregnant from the rape. And
Mhm.
so why I think that's important for women to read and not if they can handle the trigger is because you're really doing like a level of therapy and exposure as if you're walking with a therapist through the book here. If this ever happened to you, if you live this life, if you had this moment happen, whether you weren't raped or you just had it with a partner where you don't want to be pregnant to this person or whatever it is. And, I think you're really walking through a lot of these big feelings and emotions. To that, there is exposure therapy and healing in that. And I think that's the big part of what a horror genre does is really allows you to be like, I'm not alone. Someone else felt this way, And conversely, if you haven't had that experience, it really allows you to build empathy for, we need to be kind to other women for the shit that happens to them.
Yeah, and I think that well, first of all, there is the written rape scene in the book, but it's told feel it's more of the build up to what happened because
Right.
I think
But
that
I just wanted to say it's not like some
yeah, it's not a graphic, like a super graphic. It's more
yeah.
yeah, it's more
Yeah,
of
like,
a
that's what I was trying to like, some people really draw that stuff, and I'm like, you're not gonna be like, "Oh my god, I can't read this."
yeah, it's not the intention of the book at all to write a really graphic rape scene. The intention is to show what leads to it and then the aftermath. And you can still write a really effective horror story, and a really effective story about sexual assault without including it very explicitly. But it's more of a sense of dread because at the beginning of the book, you know that she's been raped. You know that you are going to learn about how that happened in the future, and there is a building of a sense of dread because you see where she is emotionally from the beginning, which is really heartbreaking, very it was for me a very difficult like reflecting when you're after the release of the book, it was a really difficult book to write because it was very personal. I think I'm okay with saying that the rape scene is based on something that happened to me personally. And it was really important for me to, I think a lot of people say like the first book is the most personal, and this book is as personal as it gets.
First of all, the courage that you had in writing that and sharing your story, I hope was cathartic to you and healing to you, but also it is where we find community and we find other women that have gone through these things. And, um, you know, I think it's important to, I mean, I don't feel like I'm revealing too much because I mean, this is like maybe the first, let's just even say like 30 pages of, but I mean, you meet Odette where I mean, she's deeply bleeding and she's driving herself and she's, if you've ever had a terrible period or you're just, I mean, this is just happening to your body. And so a lot of the book, the perspective is written from this fetus
Mhm.
too. And I want to say this to our listeners because May, you've written something profound. I mean, you've broken through like this is not A plus B plus C and, of like a traditional storyline. And that's why I think it does work so much is because I want to be engaged. I've read a lot of books that do a lot of the certain things. And it's like, I don't want this. If you want a comfy trope or whatever, this here, it's holistic. It's, homogenous for how everything fits together, but you're going to be wowed in terms of that's a really cool point of view or, oh, wow, I didn't expect that to happen, but I'm glad it did.
Yeah,
I
I
think
didn't
for a
expect all of these
female,
elements to come together.
exactly. And I mean, at the end of the book, I mean, when you're like talking about women saying like good for her, like
Mhm.
that's where this fits into this trope
Mhm.
is like it is a good for her. And you're like,
I think that one thing that I really love about this book is that if you just like in a vacuum talked about some of the more I don't even want to say like out there, but more like original things that happen in the book,
Yeah.
you would be like, this book is probably super surreal and doesn't, all that, like it's probably Lynchian. And it's like, no, this is an extremely grounded,
it is.
character based book. And one of the things that I'd love for you to talk about that I loved about this book is that all of the characters are very morally complex. But okay, so there's some people that obviously you're cheering for and are good.
Mhm.
And there's some people that are really fucking bad. But there's a lot of people that can kind of be said to be in the middle,
Morally gray, right?
especially like Odette's father is one character that I think really loves her in his way and things like that. But I love the idea that I think, at least I came away with from the book, that well intentioned and well meaning, and even if you really do love, is not enough.
Yes.
You have to you have to turn that into something that is actually caring for that person and is actually trying to understand and not just pushing like whether it's your beliefs or what you want, and like the idea that you can be morally gray but you have to be good, like you have to be trying to do good or something really bad might happen, or someone, when that valid crash out happens, don't be shocked if it points at you because you never actually tried to do something good for
And
that
you
person.
earned it, right?
Yeah.
Like you kind of earned it and set yourself up for it. And, you said a little bit about like the growing up with religion. Like I have a hard time. I think okay, let me brain's going faster. One of the things that I really like about horror, and I didn't know that I would, is that it does allow me to explore like a fantasy of wouldn't that be nice? And growing up, I was always told from a Christian perspective, revenge is mine, saith the Lord. Like, do not interrupt God.
Mhm.
Like, this
Mhm.
is
Not yours
this
to
is
do.
not your
Yeah.
job no matter what. This
Mhm.
is God's role to take revenge. And I'm like,
And
"Oh,
realizing that that's what somebody that deserves revenge taken upon them says.
probably." And I'm like, all the time, it's like, so I really like that in this book that she's like, no, not never, never fucking again.
Mhm.
No.
Yeah.
And that was empowering to me of like, no, why do I have to let something like this just pass in many different ways? Cause it's not just with the middle of the book, but it's also at the end. Like, I mean, she's like, all of y'all, and since we have a pot, it's like all of y'all are getting your just desserts. I mean, you've
Right.
earned these, eat it,
Yeah.
and I love that because it's like she's not being controlled by this. I don't know. I mean, just it allows me to try on and be like, why am I doing this? Why am I, even if we would take like another, people throw the word karma around all the time, like, oh, karma's going to get this person, it's like,
Yeah.
first of all, that's appropriation. And second of all,
At some point, somebody like for that to happen, someone has to make a decision to be that.
that's it.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. And that goes back to the kind of, like, learned helplessness of, I did grow up and I think that this is reflected in the book pretty well that when you grow up in an ultra evangelical society, there's for instance, in the book, Odie's father is an alcoholic. When you have this kind of problem in an ultra evangelical society, there is this sort of like hands off, let go and let God. God will save me from this thing. And there is this sense of like I don't have power here. If I'm meant to recover from alcoholism, then I will recover. God will save me eventually. And
Man, but Adam, I don't know if you can hear me. He's like, shit. It's like, yeah, I mean, you just said something. If you've ever been in an evangelical household and
Mhm.
had, like, wow.
Hi,
Yes.
mom.
yeah,
Shout out Elise. Do you hear this one? Okay, go on.
yeah.
That's
So
that's his sister that can also relate to that.
Yeah.
Yes. Go on. Sorry.
there are a lot of things, a lot of elements in the book. I think that for readers of straight horror fiction, it probably is very confusing because there are a lot of elements where you're like, why is this happening? What does this represent? Why is this important? But for me, in this environment, in poverty, a lot of the things represent the lack of autonomy or the way that the environment you're born into tosses you around. Like you're in this ocean and the waves are just tossing you around. There's nothing you can do. So these things represent for the characters this ultra acceptance that happens in these environments where you think I don't have autonomy in this, whether it's related to your religious beliefs or whether it's related to a sense that you already know that you don't have power because that's the socioeconomic.
I was just gonna say financially,
Yeah,
how are you gonna make this change? You
yeah,
can't leave.
that position that you're born into. And I think for Odie, the main problem is the fact that she did get out and
She did. She went to college, she got out.
something terrible happened to her. And then she returns home and she is mired not just in the feelings of what just happened to her, but this sense of I can't escape this place even when I'm hundreds, thousands of miles away.
Yeah. Oh, this is just me imagining with Odie, but I'm like, she grew up in this alcoholic family. She has these experiences. So I'm like, okay, what's her nervous system like? How is she finding comfort? Because at some point you got to find it. So I'm like, is she alcohol, drugs, sex, love? Like, what is she doing? Giving sex to give love, whatever, and I'm thinking of like, you know, did she go away to college and did she have these experiences where she felt like she could be different and she could find love and then it ends up just like through subconsciously her nervous system and just like the trauma that she's had that like she gives love to someone that didn't deserve it. Now I don't know. I mean, rape is rape. That doesn't have anything to do with it. But I'm
Right,
just like
yeah.
I'm envisioning my own life of how I grew up and I'm
Mhm.
thinking like, okay, I didn't have a lot of like later on and whatever. And so I was like, oh, boys, like really young age, like, and you think like, okay, well, how do I break this cycle? Or you don't realize in that space that you're doing things that are going to keep you trapped.
Right.
in a life because it doesn't look like that, right? And that's kind of what I'm wondering of like just from taking creative liberties of like wondering if like she didn't realize like you think you're gone and you think you got away, but can you really ever fully leave your past? And so like that's where it came for me was like I think because I was still so like ingrained of you're supposed to have a husband, you're supposed to get married. It's like you're supposed to find this partner. And the best thing you can be as a wife and the best thing you can do is be, have someone, you need to find this partner. It's like I didn't even look at the rest of my life for the things. And so even though I thought I got away or I thought I was doing XYZ, because I was so focused on things that were ingrained in me to be
Mhm.
doing, I ended up sending myself right back to the place. Now, again, I'm not saying that's the case with Odette because of the rape, but I'm saying in general, like I think women or people as they think they've broken out of the cycle, so much of it you still carry with you.
Yeah, it definitely follows you, and I think that in the case of the book, Odie, when we get to that scene building up to when the rape happens, she is engaging in, I guess, what psychiatrists or psychologists would call risk-taking behavior, which is another thing that, is used to kind of discount or
Hmm.
discredit these stories of rape to say, "Oh, well, she was doing X, Y, and Z." But the thing is that Odette isn't just this one thing that happened to her, she is the product of her entire life, and
Hmm.
why is she taking these risks? Why is she seeking, getting drunk and
This
seeking this
okay.
out? Those
You
things
said
are
it so much more clearly than what I was trying to say, which is
yeah.
that you're dysregulated. You've lived
Yeah.
through all this trauma and
Her nervous system is shot.
that's
She doesn't know when she's safe and when she's not. She
exactly.
has no gauge for that because she grew up unsafe.
Exactly. Then it's like that's why when they say like, if you do any of these things, drugs, alcohol, sex, gambling, it's like a lot of these are comfort seeking behaviors because your nervous system is so dysregulated and fucked. And so even though we can look at it objectively, like you said, like a therapist, like this is risk seeking behavior. No, girlfriend's just trying to get she's just trying to
Yes.
numb herself a little bit. She's just trying to fit in. She's like out of pocket of like where she's been at and she's like reinvent. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
lot of like probably mask wearing and okay, how do
Well,
I, and
she's also experimenting with autonomy herself because if you think
there you go.
she has not been on her own. She grew up in this environment, and she's never been out on her own before, and suddenly she's 1,000 miles away from home, and she is a young person experimenting with autonomy and trying to figure out how to take her power back, and she doesn't have a clear path to that, and I think when she enters into this situation with the boy, she feels that she's in power. She feels that this
Hmm.
this is
That's it.
her autonomy, and she should have been safe in this situation, and I think that that is
Absolutely.
the catalyst for the entire story, is that she'd been through so much. She should have been safe in this situation, and she wasn't, and now she's just fucking done.
Yeah. And you should be able to go. I mean, how many college students go and are able to do what she did and it's fine. Um, Particularly males, but females too, right? Like there I think too of like that time when you're 18 or 19 and you feel like you know everything and you're really hopeful. I mean, how many times it's like when I get out of this house, when I get to leave, when
Yeah.
I'm an adult,
Like,
and it's like my
I
life is
wish
going to start.
yeah, I wish I was an adult. I can't I
Yes.
like, that
And then you
that
go there and you think I mean, at that age, I thought I knew everything. Like I felt so mature and ready to
yeah,
make the decisions and all that stuff. And so like to be 1,000 miles away would have felt amazing, and just
yeah,
like empowering in that aspect. I did this for myself. I got here.
and
And I feel like you felt like that kind of with I think like with Adam, with your family, you were just like, I can't wait to get the fuck out of here. And then you did, and you went away to college. But because your nervous system was so dysregulated from the childhood traumas that you had, that you ended up with agoraphobia. You had to quit college
I think that
because he
also
couldn't attend class. He couldn't,
when you had said before when you were talking about her, like feeling like she's escaped and gotten away. And I think that when we first meet Odette, she's in the despair of realizing that whether it's the Ozarks or Boston, like the same predators live in both places.
Yeah.
And it's the same shit with different clothes and a different pay grade. And like
Yeah.
she's like going home thinking, I might as well be around what I know if it's all gonna be shit, right?
Yeah, it's
And
like it's
like
almost
I
a
think
it's a
that yeah.
yeah, it's almost a comfort, to return home even though it is so bad.
Yeah.
It's
It's the
like
devil you
yeah,
know.
that's what yeah, the devil you know.
Yeah, and I think that that's like the thing is it's like whatever it is that we think that we're escaping, exists everywhere. And I think that that's what happens to a lot of people when they go off to college and things like that. Some people, of course, it's the best time, whatever. But I think especially
They're
maybe
called neurotypical.
that's what I was
Were
gonna
you
say.
just gonna
Yeah.
say that?
Yeah,
Oh my god.
especially people that have had traumas and things like that. You go and you're expecting this sort of utopia of like
Mm-hmm.
people that care and like, it's this especially someone, that's bookish thinking everyone's gonna just be sitting around smoking, writing on typewriters and reading. And then you get there
Yeah.
and like and they don't do any they don't read, they're just gym bros and like all this thing and you're like, fuck, like
You're like, "Oh my god, it's
yeah.
all the jocks. They're all here on sports
It's just
they're all here
yeah,
on
well, it's
sports
just like yeah.
scholarships. What am I gonna do?"
Yeah. It's just the same shit again. And I feel like, obviously what Odie goes through is that taken to like a tragically horrible like thing that,
Yeah.
is horribly based in reality for you, but it's like, out of the pan and into the fire kind of thing almost,
Yeah.
where it's like, where are you gonna find that? And like Odie finds, it's like she has to find it in herself, no matter where
Mhm.
geographically
Yeah.
or who's around
Yeah.
her. And I love that.
But I think too for the crash out to begin, and I mean, how many years did you sit and think about till I leave this house when I get out of this terrible situation, and I'm gonna get and then she goes there and she said she's not safe anywhere. She finds out the same monsters exist.
Mhm.
I mean, what does that do to your hope?
I
What
mean,
does that
yeah, she's
that's what I'm saying.
totally
Like,
in
what does that
despair.
do to your like psyche? Like there's like a crack
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
okay, so this whole future that I have been hinging my life on, that it's gonna get better, and then it doesn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, to come back and you're like, well, fuck it. I'm just going to be where I'm at, what I'm
Mhm.
doing, and
And well, I'd love to talk about some of the fetus itself and the fact that it
yes,
becomes sentient
Let's talk
and
about
like
the fetus.
or
the fetus
whatever
is,
you want to call it
it's one
because
of my favorite characters though, ever
yeah, but
written.
at the
I
same
mean,
time I love the
Everyone
fact
loves
that it's
baby.
because baby is fucking smart. Baby is like, hold on thought 1 second. I just want to say one thing. Okay. Recently some of my friends and people, we've been talking about and some of the ladies that have come on here for the podcast of like perimenopause and
Mhm.
whatever.
Mhm.
And I said, like, a lot of times when it was time to get my period, like I felt like I just couldn't hold a filter. Like if my patience was like this long, it's like this long, right? And I didn't feel like it was PMS. It was like, I just can't fucking mask for you right now. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I just can't kiss your ass today. I don't have it within me. And it was almost like there were times where I'm like, you know what? I'm really glad I have my period right now because I'm not dealing with the bullshit. I'm not
Yeah.
putting up with it. And so with perimenopause, there's flashes of that all the time now where it's just like, I think like we're just like, we don't fucking care. So as it comes to baby, I feel like baby is the representation of that all the time. Or baby's just like, hell no, fuck the patriarchy, fuck all this. And she's an ambassador, or they, because it's excuse me, fetus, is an ambassador for what women deserve and how things should have been, and like just takes back. And I feel like maybe that's why I like the character so much, is because it was like, I wish I could be more like that a little bit.
Yeah, I think
A
that
little murderous.
a
Okay.
little murderous. I think baby like I like what you said about baby being very smart because it's, this clump of cells, this embryo that learns through Odie's eyes, sees life for everything that it is, and also sees things in a kind of black and white way that Odie can't see those things. So in regards to her dad, we talk about her dad being this morally gray character. He does love her. I think that in the story that's very clear that he loves her, but like you were saying, there has to be some actionable things behind that love. It can't it is abuse, to love
Hmm.
someone like that. And Baby sees that in a way that Odie can't. Odie wants to make excuses for him to accept that this is how he is because he comes from this environment. But yeah,
I love that. That's kind of what I was saying is just like the ambassador, like the filterless version of ourselves that wants the best. It's like, no, this is bullshit. Adam, I know I've said to you over the years, I'm like, if this is love, then why doesn't it feel like it?
Yeah,
If it's coded with the language of labeled as love, then how come it doesn't feel
right.
like shouldn't love be really easily identifiable and feel good and all these things? And you're like, but I love you. And it's like,
and
but
then
I'm not feeling any of those things.
it's juxtaposed by the fact that she does have people in her life who deeply love her, and that's her friends, Dale and Dwayne, who are also kind of rough around the edges because they grew up very similarly, but they love her in a way that isn't abusive and is looking out for her. And they have a lot of the same problems. They drink, they smoke, they have this sort of like
They get
lawless. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
they have a very lawless vibe,
Yeah,
but they love her and they're willing to do anything for her because she is a reflection of them.
yeah. I think, and just going back to Baby for a second, because I think like you do a really remarkable thing because Baby is such an easy sort of character and concept to go so many different ways with, like in a literary sense
Mhm.
and like symbolically and metaphorically. And it can be all of these different things. And the way that you balance that with keeping it grounded in the story and these characters, like when you decided or when the idea came, when you were like, okay, this is what's going to be happening, was that like a conscious thing to say, like, look, obviously Baby is like the things that you're saying, is experiencing the world for the first time, is black and white, is like saying, allowing Odie to say, like, okay, let me not bring my trauma and my hopes and dreams into these people. And this is just seeing them for who they actually are. But then also saying, like, this is a metaphor for her taking her autonomy back. This is like, all of these different things for trauma and that kind of stuff. And saying it is both of these things at the same time. It's
Mhm.
going to serve this novel as both things without going too far in either direction. And I think that, like, in other hands, it could have been either taking itself way too seriously, because there's a lot of fun to the moments when Baby takes over too, right? And catharsis and stuff like that, or the opposite, that it could get way too silly, but it really strikes that perfect balance of being like, okay, this is fucking awesomely weird, but also I get it, So like
Yeah.
that's a really thin line that you do so well here.
Yeah, and I really like how, like you said at the beginning, like it's a possession story, and ordinarily that would creep me out, but the possession is Baby
Yeah.
talking through.
Hmm.
Like it's not like, again, if we have some readers that are or listeners that are like, I can't read that. No, it's not like that.
It's
It's
not
just
it's
like
not
Yeah.
it's not demonic possession.
Yeah.
right, and it's almost like
It's
that.
Babonic person.
Yeah,
Babonic.
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 Yeah.
So
In fact, it's like, please, this is what I'm trying to say is like, please
yeah.
take me over a little bit
Yeah.
further,
You can
please.
have a
Like,
few minutes,
yeah,
and that would be great.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
like,
come on,
maybe
Baby.
the
Yeah.
feisty version of Rebecca
Yeah.
needs to stay around a little bit more.
Yeah.
Like, let's just keep these angry feelings because
Right.
that's the time I've been. And I think what I'm saying is like, I always want to feel like apologetic for being like, well, listen to how I described it. My fuse is a little short. I'm not able
Mhm.
to wear the mask. It's like, no, you're always a fucking problem. And I always make excuses for you, or whatever. And
Yeah.
it's fine. And now I'm like, no, it's fucked up and I'm not okay with it. Like and that's what Baby's doing. It's
Yeah.
fucked up and I'm not okay with it.
And
And I'm going to take care of this for you, Odie.
as the story goes on, Odie learns the important role that Baby plays for her. So she does start wanting Baby to take over because that's how she's harnessing her power. And I think that that speaks to what you're saying. Like we all wish that we all have that side of us and we're holding it back. And sometimes it comes out and people are freaked out by it. They're like, "Whoa, why are you being this way?" But it's like,
Well, you've changed.
yeah.
You're
Yeah.
goddamn right. I know.
I've changed.
Yeah.
I'm possessed by a fetus.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, I've changed because I'm not meeting your standards of being a human doormat anymore or
Yeah.
whatever
And women in particular are not allowed to stand
to
up for
change.
themselves. They are
Exactly.
not allowed. And I'm not to get into it, but I've definitely experienced this as an author online, like as a person, a female author writing weird fiction, horror fiction. You experience this online a lot too. If you have a little bit of a bite, if you stand up for yourself, then you are going to be painted a certain way. And I'm sure you've spoken with so many authors and you follow so many authors. I am sure that you have seen this trend as well.
Well, what's crazy is I've
Yeah.
never seen a male author, indie, traditionally published, some, self-published, that has been kicked off of platforms and asked to show their ID to them to get back on.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, and definitely like if, I feel like if a male author gets shit and says something back, the comments are like, oh man, good for you. Finally, don't get, whatever. A female author doesn't. It's like, you should just be lucky people are reading your books, or,
Yeah.
why are you doing like, oh
It gets
man,
bad
like,
out there.
yeah,
It gets bad out
yeah.
there. I think,
Yeah. I think that's really fair
if you
assessment, Adam.
I look at the way that at times I've been treated online. I look at the way that authors like Gretchen Felker
Cynthia
Martin,
Palaio.
Cynthia Plyo, Gretchen Felker Martin, all of these
Mhm.
authors are treated online.
Rachel a lot of times shares about it too, of
Yeah.
just
It can get pretty bad, and I don't hear those same stories from male authors. Usually I
right.
hear, "Oh my god, that's fucked up that that happened to you." It's like, "Well, yeah, this is just life on the internet for a female
Mhm,
author."
mhm. Well, and I feel that way even just in starting this podcast. I was like, what if I'm just like completely like not going to put on a mask and I'm just going to say things that I fucking feel like wanting to say, And it's like, what if I'm hated? And I'm just like, whatever. I don't care. I guess what I'm saying is I don't care. I don't those who are supposed to find me, those who enjoy it will, and those who don't.
The
But
sad fact is, it's, you're going to be hated for existing
yeah,
and being female on the internet, no
Yeah.
matter what. So you might as well just be
yeah.
yourself.
So as we're recording here, we never keep our cameras on, and we have it on, and I've never liked to show my face to anyone because I have so much like I apologize for having rosacea, which came out after my second baby. Okay. But when you get into like the details of like when you look at okay, what is rosacea? Why do you have it? Or any disease for the like the metaphysical aspects to it. Rosacea literally translates to that you are wearing a mask. So you're not comfortable being yourself. And the thing is my face used to be so fucking cranberry. I mean, cranberry. And I washed and it's intense and it's hot and we're talking about heavy things. So with rosacea being a vascular disease, it's warm and it's deeper red right now. And if we were like not doing this, it would probably be lighter. But this is one of the better experiences of my life from how red it used to be. And now it can go lighter too. But my goal, I've been reading this, I've seen this online many times, but it's the becoming
Yeah, I've seen
supernatural. And
that.
it's like basically changing your brainwaves and changing the way you think about things and going into certain experiences. And I feel like genuinely feel like through my esthetician treatments and then also just in being like, I'm not gonna fucking cater to people in the same way anymore, that my rosacea has greatly improved. Like
Your rosacea is your baby?
that's what I'm trying to say. It is my baby and it should be my barometer of how I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I love that you just took the words and connected what I was trying to say. And so one of the other things with psychology is at some point in your life, you've had these fractures, right? Of yourself. Like you start out as this whole and then there's fractured pieces. And to have the full reintegration is to become a healed and whole person. And that's what I feel like in your book of Odette and Baby, she's reintegrating from her traumatic self. And Baby is allowing her to do that, of like pulling in these other parts that she's denied, hasn't looked at, or told they're
Mhm.
unlovable, whatever it is, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too sensitive, you're to be seen and not heard or whatever. And Baby is the person that aggregates all these pieces of her and pulls it back in. And I love that. And I think that's where the story is so powerful of a fucking like, that's right. We deserve this. And every woman has some aspect of Odette in her. And every aspect has a baby. And that's why I wanted to say, like, my face, even though, okay, you're using Baby as the story, but it's a euphemism for whatever. It could be the shitty fucking breakup for the man that asked you to make meatloaf before you leave, before 4.5 years of breaking up with you. That
Mhm.
literally happened to my friend. Like, that's all she was. Can you make this meatloaf before you leave?
Wow.
It's like, have your valid crash out. Like, what does that mean you're never doing again? What are you never doing again? And what is your baby?
Yeah.
Is it the attack that you got online? They're like, I'm not ever fucking doing this again. It's like at some point it has to shift. You can't keep putting yourself in these positions. And there is that, I watched Nick Roberts, but I've always felt this way because I went through therapy for this, where they're like, she was like, even if you've done something 1%, like let's say, between like 99% could be their fault, but you had to take accountability for at least the 1%, because anytime it involves two people, there's at least 1% that you're responsible for,
Mhm.
maybe more. Right. And so I was watching Nick the other day talking about how he hasn't gotten the royalties and the certain things like that from selling his book, and just wasn't paid. Like, he just hasn't been paid in years. And this small press is just out here making money off of his best selling book, and he's
Wow.
gotten no money. Yeah. And he's like, okay, where can I take responsibility? What part of this? And he's like, that often helps me to deal with my anger. And he's like, after month one, when I wasn't getting paid, I should have paid more attention. I should have done this. I should have done this. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's a level of when you can start to look at that in your life or in the book here, to be like, okay, what if I could go back in retrospect and see, how did I get here? That's where the convergence of having your baby, whatever that is to you,
Mhm.
and having the moment of reconciliation of, what part did I play? Was it complicity? Was it continuing to wear the mask?
Mhm.
Was it that it didn't go to therapy? Whatever. And it's when that all comes together that I think you can take the valid crash out and just get to that point where everyone says, you've changed. And you're
Yeah.
like, for the better. I am myself. I'm not catering to you anymore.
And I want to say, like, just as a side, like, we're talking about long term relationships, maybe family members, things like this, not the trauma that she experienced, in terms of her assault.
Correct.
That's not the same thing at all. Like, but like
Yeah.
when it comes to something that you've entered into, whether it's business, friendship,
Sure.
whatever,
Yeah,
that is the case.
a
Yeah.
parental relationship.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
and
think
saying like, "Okay, going forward, how am I going to not let these things happen or show that I do not accept
It,
treatment in these kinds of
it can
ways for
even be your
sure."
neighbor that
Yeah, yeah,
you've waited
absolutely,
forever to be a homeowner, and
and
you
then they're
finally get a
assholes, yeah.
house and you're in this neighborhood, and you think like,
They can do whatever they want,
yeah, and
or
it's like, it'd be
yeah,
that. I
or they're
mean,
yeah.
telling you can't put up Halloween decorations or whatever it would be, yeah, that kind of thing.
Definitely it's, the biggest role that fills in the book would be Odie and her dad, I think,
Right.
because she does make, I think internally a lot of excuses for his behavior, and she forgives him a lot.
And I think that's as much like for her to be able to survive herself, as well as wanting to say like, okay, I want to believe so much that this person loves me and wants me, and that
Yeah.
kind of thing too. Yeah.
Yeah, well, you also, Odie is a survivor in so many different
Hmm.
ways, so
Yep.
she's a young person, so I think that when you're a young person living in a house with an abusive parent, you have to adapt to survive.
holy fuck. Why did we both go?
So you have to make excuses. You really do,
Yep.
because you are stuck in that situation. But really the catalyst for everything in the book is the fact that she got out and she went away to college, so she comes back. Something terrible happened at college, but she does come back kind of with this like fresh eyes.
Right.
So I think that the battle once she gets home is that she is kind of starting to see things for what they are, and that's trauma
Hmm.
therapy. Like
Yep.
she is kind of starting to see it, but she needs the influence of baby to help her
Absolutely.
cope with what she's
Yep.
seeing, because
And to take that step to actually act on what she's realizing and seeing, and saying like, I'm not just going to say like, oh, I see this and understand now, I'm going to do something about it. Right.
yeah, and I also think that, one catalyst that sets in motion everything that we're talking about that we haven't struck on yet is the fact that her brother is a victim of police violence, pretty much.
I actually was just going to say, I
Yes.
really want to talk about
So
this.
like It's one thing after another, and it's really
Right.
those 2 things that cause this eruption.
And this just goes to show there's so many, like, we could take any, like, one aspect or even one character out of this book and talk for an hour about it. And that's
Yeah,
that's
That's
one of the
true.
joys and beauties of this.
I
And,
could talk about
yeah,
Dwayne for an hour.
right? Like, I love it. And so, I just like want to ask, like, as we're here, obviously this book has been around in your head and in your soul for much longer than a year. But as you're reflecting now and sort of, the unconventional ways that you released and did all kinds of things with this book, like a year later, like what emotions are you having? What are you feeling? Because I'm
Mhm.
hoping, you have so much pride when it comes to what this book turned out to be because it's fantastic. But like, there's a lot of things that go around, not just the book itself. So I want to know how you feel about the book itself a year later, and then also everything that comes with being an author that's now put themselves out there for the world to see
And
a year
judge.
on too. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, lots of different emotions. I think I'm feeling a lot of emotions right now in this moment because reflecting on it, for people who don't know, this book was crowdfunded. We raised,
Really?
I say we, me, I raised over $16,000
Wow.
a Kickstarter to support this book, and a lot of very, big horror authors, filmmakers supported this Kickstarter, so it was a real honor, and I think that at that time, which I think this was in 2022, like May 2022, something like that. At that time, there was a lot of pride, and maybe maybe not in a good sense, I don't know, but I was feeling so confident. And then after the Kickstarter, I was like, okay, so I've raised this money and now I have to write a book and I have to deliver a book. And this was difficult because, as you were saying, the book is like therapy, and it was my own therapy, and it was like going through reliving some traumas of my own life. And it was a difficult write. And then in 2023, I'm hoping I'm getting the timeline right, but in 2023, grandmother got sick, and
Okay, yes.
this made delayed the book. Yes, I was like, "What's the word?" This delayed the book, and 10 months after that, my grandmother passed away, and this delayed the book again. So I think the book was like a year too later than I had promised. And I think a lot of the excitement around the book, a lot of the support around the book, it kind of fizzled out because, people can only really pay attention so long, and other things come along and other opportunities. And, finally the book released last year on November 19th. And I had a lot of mixed emotions because it released a few, I think my grandmother died in July and it released in November. And it was a really big deal that it was released. And I sent out all of the pre-orders, and you know, I think that in 2022, when I was raising the money, I thought, this is going to be big. This is going to change my life. This is going to, like, and I had made a lot of promises, like to my spouse, I'm like, this is going to be so huge. It's going to change my life. Like, all of these people support it. It's incredible. My expectations were so high. And then writing it was just trudging. I barely made it, like psychologically, physically, I barely made it. And now a year on, I can say, that wasn't at all like what I expected. I thought it would change my life. I thought it would have a lot of readers. I thought that lots of people would be talking about it because so many people had supported the Kickstarter. And so in the aftermath, I was grieving. I felt disappointed. I felt, wow, that it's really it's out there and nobody's reading it. That's kind of how I felt. But in the year since it came out, my perspective has kind of changed on it. I do feel very proud of it because even though a lot of folks haven't read it, the people who do read it, I think I've only had like the worst review I've had was like a 2-star review, and it didn't really say anything bad about it. It was kind of more like, okay, this confused me. But for the most part, people who read it and get it see what I
Are
was trying.
doing 5s and like,
Yeah, they see what I was trying to do. And so even though it's not,
"Well, you did it."
yeah, even though it's not a lot of people, it's the right people, and I
Yes,
feel immense pride in that.
you should. And you think about how many artists authors, things like that, that end up doing a re-release, or they weren't, during that time frame of, let's just say art where it's like it wasn't valued at that time, and then it becomes wildly like that. And it's not my book, right? It didn't happen to me personally. What you're saying, I can completely, empathize with what you're saying of how that must have felt, but that doesn't change how good your book is. I mean, it's still, as we're sitting here and we're talking about this, and like, you know, to the listener, we already recorded this episode with May. Like, she was one of the most gracious people to come on and help us to record early on. And then we decided, you know what, let's re-record and do something for an anniversary edition. We've already talked to you once like this. And as I'm sitting here for the second time, um, I'm like, your book is up there with some of these elite, complex, really good. I mean, because not only did you incorporate horror and horrific moments, but you could have a class on your book, from a college perspective, and really breaking it out. And I think of people like Emma Murray, where she spent so much time, Emma Murray, like researching the psychology for her books and digging into it. It's like that's where your book is standing up with this, and like just getting into not only what relates to people, but also fascinates, and it's cleverly done and complex. But I don't know why this person said they couldn't understand it. It's like one of the you're not a triple timeline of back and forth. You know what I mean? Like it's a very and it's like it's not one of those books that you're bored. I mean, it takes off immediately. And I just think a lot of this, honestly, May, is just the fact that it's weird that you say that right now, because I was like, I don't know why. I woke up this morning and I was thinking about Brian McCauley's Bleed In, Bleed Out. And I was
Mhm.
like, man, there was so much hype around that. I was like, wonder if I should say something about his book again. Like, just like, you
You
support all these
you
people at the beginning
definitely
of their lives.
should. If you ever have that question, "Should I say something about this book again?"
Yeah,
Yes.
no, that's what I'm thinking.
Yes.
Say it, right, and I was like, "You know what?" I was just thinking, like, I gave him all this support in September, and it's like, his book's just as good. It deserves just as much, and so, really where my thinking went to is like, "Okay, what do I wanna do for these authors that have been on the podcast? Like, as it
Mhm.
comes to the end of the year, what are these episodes gonna look like? How do I wanna put this out?" And it's like, because there's people that deserve to be shouted out again, because it just falls off of people's timelines. It's like, and now it's another new Tuesday, and it's another new Tuesday. And and I think that's where this comes in, is basically, anytime I tag you or show you in something, it's like because I'm thinking about you and I'm thinking about how good these things are. It's like I haven't figured out what is the solution yet to keep these books that deserve to be aloft all the time. How do I keep bringing them up? And the goal of this podcast was always to elevate independent and small authors to really get their books shined on. So like that's something for me that I really want to think about for 2026. How do I
Mhm.
change that? How do I do these things? Because the quality of your book, to bring it back to what I'm saying to you, is like it's exceptional. It's an exceptionally written book.
Yeah.
I can't imagine anyone reading it, especially if you're a female, and not being like, fuck yeah, you deserve to have sat on these women's panels. Because it's not pink. Like, I don't really love the concept of a pink horror. Like, I don't hate it. I'm not saying that. I just think that pink horror is real life women's horror. It's real life horror. And you tapped into all of it. And I just, anybody who is on the fence, or you're looking for a book for the end of the year, or 10 before the end, or planning out your TBR, it's like, I'm sorry if I scared you, is so important. It is a vital female read, not only to support you, May, for what you're doing and how much of your heart you put out here, but also you have friends that have gone through this. If you're at that stage where you're thinking of perimenopause, like we've joked and talked about, it's like, read this book, because you need to tap into your own version of baby. If you're a younger person and you're like, yeah, I've been a doormat, or yeah, I say yes to things I don't want to say, whatever. If you've had traumas, like, read this book. There's so many levels that it will connect you on. And also it's just so damn good and
Mhm.
entertaining. And at the end, satisfying. As we come up on pie season, read this book.
Yeah,
Read
yeah.
this fucking book.
For people who
If
want
you're
to.
about to go on a diet and you're thinking about eating sweets, read this book.
Yeah, I it's a great read for, because it takes place in between Thanksgiving and Christmas. So Thanksgiving and
Right.
Christmas happen in the course of the book. So it's a great read for this season.
It is.
But also, thank you for the kind words, and I do just wanna say, like, I see how well you both support independent authors, and it's you're talking about, like, how can you do more? So just and me saying it's okay to give yourself grace, you don't have to do everything all the time. Like, you guys are doing a phenomenal job already.
Oh, well, that's so nice. Thank you. I feel like there's just this talent pool that's out here. And, my goal this year was to read like 100 books. I'm closer now. By the end of the year, I'm positive I can hit 250.
Whoa. Sorry, I love to read, but I'm a slow reader, so that's just whoa.
Yeah, no. And the thing is that's what I'm trying to like when I say this to you, where I'm like, no, your book is really, really, really good. I've read a lot of books this year, and yours holds.
Yeah, stands out.
It does. No, it's so creative. It's so impactful. It is so necessary. And I mean, you're a really good writer. You're funny in it too. Like it's not just sad, or whatever. I mean, it's
Thank
like
you.
it's got all the elements. And yeah, I feel like after the month that I had in October, I'm just like I almost just want to like stay on this vibe of like, okay, this is what I want to read about. This is what I get into. Cause like as a sociology major for race, class, so sexuality, gender, like all like I already horror already explores so much of that, but it's just like I want to just now I'm thinking about like redesigning my bookshelves again of like, okay, how do I showcase these? Give me May's book. You can't be on your side.
We
of
have
it.
two. We have
I
both.
know we have 2 copies.
Yeah.
So I get one. I
I'm keeping the pie one though.
don't give a shit. I need
One
one
is
of them.
mine.
I
One
get
is
the
mine.
hardcover.
Stupid. Why?
No, that's
Look, you look at this fight.
Yeah.
fine, but the
I'm
other
gonna get out my inner baby and I'm gonna make you a
fine. The
pie.
hardcover is not signed to anyone. I'll keep the one that she signed
Fine.
personally to.
Thank
No,
you. I want to put it out and display it, but no, like there are books where they're like coveted off. Like we have a whole section of all the ones that we've like interviewed, but it's like
mhm.
Adam's like, these are my babies, these are
Yep.
my authors, these are, and I'm like, yeah, no.
Yeah,
But
you have to
the
share,
thing
Adam.
is like, I want it to be on my side
It's
too.
like I feel like
It needs to be
that's
among my female authors that are just
the one gospel I'm spreading is that of these like incredibly talented people. I'm just like, please, like just read these people.
yes.
You will not be sorry. I'm like where we're starting.
You have always like, and you've said that a lot of like when you look at the spreads that people put out and the books
Mhm.
they've read, and it's a lot of male authors, and you've
Mhm.
called
It sure
a lot of
is.
Instagram people out and threads people out, not like one on one, but just
Mhm.
in general. And I really like that, right? Like I think that holding readers and influencers and bookstagrammers and threads people and all that like accountable to, it's not like it's great to put up, it's Indigenous Peoples Day. Okay, but just say, oh, quote about Christopher Columbus, but we actually were able to pull books from our that we actually read and
Right,
loved.
yeah.
And like that's what I'm saying. It's like when they're like, oh, Women in Translation Month. I'm like, no, I have it. It's like, oh, you should read Black authors all year. Well, I do. Like, check me. Look at my you know what I mean? And that's
Right.
kind of like what I feel like you're telling people is stop saying that you're a supporter of this or whatever, right? So
Right.
we were
There's words and then there's what you actually do. Yeah. I understand what
Well,
you're
I think
saying.
it's also
your
like
case with
here's
what you were
my
saying about the dad, right? I love you. Okay, but where's the action? It's like, oh, I love
Right.
reading all this. Okay,
well, it
really?
becomes
Let's see what you actually post
but
and
even that
what you've read.
like to me it's more like it's tokenism like I don't want a flat lay of black female horror authors.
That's what I'm
I
saying.
want you to review all year when you read a black female horror author's book that you like. And
Right.
the fact is, if you're reading them, you're going to like a lot of them and you're
Yes.
going to want to review a
It's
lot
going to
of them.
come out naturally, is
Yeah,
what I'm
so,
saying.
okay.
So
Very controversial. Everybody wants to be seen. Everybody wants to be recognized. And at a certain point, it's like, oh my gosh, like you can't do it for everybody. You know what I mean? And I think that that's like, I talked about being disappointed about my book, but I did have this, I reached a point where I was like, I'm not disappointed because you can't do it for everybody. And just because people aren't reading my book now, it doesn't mean they're not going to read stuff that I write in the future. It doesn't, like I think that over the course of the past 3 years or so, I've become a lot more secure, in terms of how I feel about my writing, and I'm working on my next book. I'm in contract negotiations for my next book, and it's
That's
gonna
progress from the last time we talked. That's
yeah,
good.
I'm very excited, and, I think that the first book, like I said, it was very personal, it was very difficult to get through. This one, I think, is gonna be a lot more fun. And I have high hopes for it. And it's the first time that I'm, obviously I've only had one book out, but it's the first time that I'm not putting a book out myself, like somebody else is doing it. So that's pretty exciting. So I have every reason to be confident, every reason to have hope. But I agree with what you're saying that, it would be nice if people were a little bit more consistent in their support and not just during, oh, it's Women's History Month, or it's uh, Indigenous Peoples Day. It would be nice if people were consistent across the board, but it gets tricky because you're like, God, like, what if this is just really what they like? What if they are reading women and they're like, "Oh, this isn't for me." I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think at a certain point.
Oh, I get it. And the thing is, it's like fuck them, and they
Yeah.
go read your go read your bullshit. And I want people that deserve my books to read them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also think, there's some beauty in not having the expectation too, because like you said, it is about, I need this, I need to do this, and I definitely felt that way with I'm Sorry If I Scared You. Like, that needed to be written for my own healing, you know. Um,
It's like you delivered the baby.
I delivered the baby.
I mean, it's
It was
childbirth
born.
pain, right? When
Yeah.
something needs to be birthed, I mean, it's coming out of a body one way or the other, right? And that's painful. But I think that for you, like, congrats on your next, what you're working on. Of course, we're going
Thank
to
you.
continue to champion you for that. So, what are you doing for your launch day for your 1 year anniversary? Besides that, we're going to put the podcast out. Are you going to do something to re-celebrate? Because
You
you
know,
Make
should.
bake a pie.
I
Oh my God.
I haven't put a lot of thought into it actually, but yeah, I might do something. You know what's so funny though is that it's a cherry pie in the book and I don't even like cherry pie.
What is your favorite pie?
Pecan.
Hell yeah. I was like,
Yeah,
I hope she says it.
it's pecan.
Knew we liked you.
But it's not gonna pop off in the colors, right? The cherry really makes it look
Right, yeah.
pretty on the cover. Yeah, I
Have
know.
you ever had a chocolate bourbon pie?
Yes.
That's Oh
No.
god, it's
Oh,
so good.
you have. I
I
don't know if you
used
know.
little
In
Yeah.
the South?
Yeah, little known fact, I used to work in a pie shop, and
Oh
we had a chocolate bourbon pie, and the pie shop was run by a lady who was from New Orleans.
God.
And, the chocolate bourbon pie was the most like, my mouth is literally watering thinking about it. Sorry, now we're talking about pie. I should get a pie to celebrate. Play it?
Think so. Okay. So where can people find you? Because you have not just the writing part, but
Yeah,
where
you
else can
so,
we find you?
the best place to find me is Instagram at May is Afraid. You can also find me on my website, maymurray.com, and then I run a Ko-fi shop called Velveteen Vampire, which is, where I put my arts and crafts, the little things that I like to do outside of writing.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and you're so good at I just realized I don't think I am following. You said Velveteen?
Yeah, it's
On Kofi.
it's on
Okay.
it's on
Kofi?
Ko-fi, yeah, and there's also an Instagram account for it, but I don't use it as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what
And
I
we're
okay,
gonna be
great.
on the lookout for a contract being signed sooner than
Hell
Yeah, it should be announced after the new year sometime.
awesome.
Yeah.
So very excited.
We are so proud of you. I just want you to know that, like, not that you needed me to say that to you, but we are. We're so proud of you. It's a hell of a thing that you accomplished. And,
Yeah.
we would love to have you back on as much or as often as you would like. And I mean, you're out here doing great shit.
Thank you so much. I love talking.
We'll be back to Massachusetts sooner than later.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks. See you.